And one thing I'd like to do is actually go down to Mackham's Beach. Apparently there's a place called Anton. They take all stuff from gutted from houses and what have you, and they've got a whole, it's just like a junkyard full of interior and exterior stuff for houses. And this looks like a potential gold mine, because if I could find a set of say 6 to 8 internal doors, I'd go for it, because the doors in my place are crap. I want something reasonable. I think they're fairly standard size. That's a pretty easy renovation to do. Dale could definitely do that, and he'd do it quickly. He's pretty efficient. That's one of those little jobs I think will make a bit of a difference. And even just doing the archways, painting them a different colour, that sort of a yellowy colour that I chose, has created quite a nice contrast, because they were sort of like a grey colour. They hadn't been painted for years, and so they looked pretty ratty. It's such a small job, but sometimes those little jobs can make a big difference. The other thing that I need doing, and again, it wouldn't be a big job. The major problem with this job is matching colours. But what I'm thinking of doing, that the 2 new toilets, they've got marks next to them because the cisterns are different sizes. So you've got these big marks behind the toilet in both cases. So what I'm thinking is just get enough paint to do both the ensuite and the main toilet, because they're both pretty small, especially the main toilet. Just, you know, your standard little freestanding toilet that's yeah, very, very small, just but perfect for doing a repaint, and don't have to worry about matching colours. If it's slightly different to what's outside, who cares, as long as that room is consistent. So that's something I could get done, but paint's bloody expensive. I looked at getting oil just to do the front fence, which also needs to be done because Dale had cleaned it with the water pressure spray, and it's about 80 bucks. So, and you have to redo it every few years apparently. But I do need to get it done because it will look nicer if the oil's on. So I'll have a chat with him about it and get it done. I mean, it's a job I could do, fairly tedious, but then again, some tedious jobs I don't mind. I like weeding because I can't stand the weeds, so I feel as though I'm getting instant gratification pulling the damn things out. I've got 0, mind you. I might do that with some of the stuff that's left as smaller plants and just get rid of those with 0, because I haven't really used it that much. I don't mind pulling weeds, especially if they're big. When they're small, it's a bit harder. 0 would be good to sort of stunt the young growth, I suppose. It certainly works. I've used it a couple of times, and yeah, it's certainly zapped the plants, so it does have that effect. But I'd rather not use a herbicide if I can avoid it, but sometimes you can't. And that might be Steve, actually. It looks like Steve's car. Yeah, he may have a hangover. Let's see. Pretty sure that's Steve. It's a pretty unique vehicle he's got there. Yeah, he's pulling up, so I'd say that is definitely Steve. My neighbour's all right. It's very, very good of them to have a fairly unique looking vehicle. It's very, very blind man friendly. So I appreciate that. And yeah, they weren't happy with the food they had last night. They won't be going back to the bar and grill in Trinity Beach. So again, dried calamari was what Yvonne told me. So. And another thing happened was a weird thing. She got a glass of wine, and the top of the glass just fell off, and it looked as though it had been cut, you know, just evenly around that section, the top section. So I don't know if that indicates sabotage or, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like it's an accident, and that's a bit of a worry. So I'm glad I didn't go. I mean, it's a really nice place to have a walk at night anyway, early evening. So would have been between 6:30 and 7 I'll walk back, and yeah, It's really quiet down here in Kewarra especially, and it's nice. It's compared to sort of Parramatta Park. I was really close to Cairns Central, so you had all the shops and everything, so very convenient, and it was about a 10-minute walk. But it wasn't a pleasant walk because you went across major highways, and yeah, the traffic there is pretty bad, and there's some pretty dodgy characters in that part of the world. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of characters we come across next week, because I assume that Jeff will want to have a look around Cairns Central. I certainly want to have a Guinness. I haven't had it for, God, I think 6 months or more. I have not been to PJ's, so I've still got my discount card. Hopefully it still works, and I'm looking forward to having a Guinness. That'll be very nice. It's been way too long between drinks, and I'll have to do another brew of the Dockside Stout, I think, because the weather up here is already getting to the high 20s, even in June, and really if it gets beyond that, it's going to be too hot to really brew. I mean, it's the main thing is the day you actually do the ingredients, so you can work around it to that extent. Just pick a cooler day. Other thing you can cheat with, I guess, is putting in ice cubes into the actual mix, because just like making up a sort of a soup, really, the ingredients, that's really what it is. You just put them into the fermenter and mix them about, and you can you need to just have it cooled down initially, because you use hot water to dissolve the actual main mixture plus other ingredients. You mix them together, the sugars and what have you, and once they're dissolved, then you can cool it down. And if you help the process, it should, you know, prevent it actually overflowing, because that's what's happened to me. Is that you've got an airlock, and it's bubbled through the airlock, which is an S shape, and just all this foam, this tan-coloured foam, which is your colour of your stout, just oozes up out through this entrance at the top of your fermenter, and causes like a little mountain of tan-coloured foam, and it's not really what should be happening. You should be seeing bubbles where you're coming through the actual airlock. You should see that, but you shouldn't have all that crap coming out. So although, you know, it's funny, I thought that would have been the end of the brews, but it's happened twice now, and on both occasions I've been able to make a drinkable stout. So quite happy. How someone's just done their fences. Big job. Fencing contractors are love it here. They get some big jobs. There's some places here they've done some nice work. There's some of that sort of stuff I like. Trouble is, just any landscaping now, it's going to cost you a bit, because the materials are just so expensive. Wood's just gone out of control. You just, at some stage, you hope that this inflationary spiral is going to abate, because I think we're all feeling it, as I've said many times. And I'm in a better position than most in that I don't have a mortgage as such. It's more like a personal loan. It's so small now that, you know, it's not a burden on me at all. So I'm just using it for the redraw facility, which might come into its own if interest rates drop again. Get some fairly cheap money at housing loan rates, rather than having to get a different loan. So that'd be nice, although every year it reduces in value as you're paying off the loan. So at the moment it's quite a bit. It's over almost 80 grand. I mean, it's a piddling amount by most mortgage these at the moment, who probably got closer to $500,000, which I can't imagine having that much debt, especially with rising interest rates. Apparently we're copping it worse than places like America, because there's a lot more fixed rate loans in the US, so they're buffeted to some degree, whereas here they're only short-term fixed rates, and most people are going to be at the mercy of variable rates. There's obviously a lot of money floating around Australia though, because people are not selling their houses. I don't see that many forced sales. I don't care what they say about the stress levels for homeowners, what Martin North says, for instance. He's got that index, but you know, people psychologically, they want to hold on to their homes. They just don't want to sell them. And you know, we don't have that volatility they have in the US, where you can just walk out of a property, leave the keys, and that's it, boom. We can't do that here. And if you've got negative equity, as I've said before, that'd be horrible. Actually, owing more on the loan than the actual house is worth. I mean, that's just, that must be gut-wrenching. So I've got myself a little bit of a nest egg at the moment with the property. It's worked out well, but it could turn. Prices could drop. We're still, you know, it's still, the price of properties is way out of kilter with wages, with what people earn per week. So it does appear, you think it'd be unsustainable. So it's going to take a lot of interest rate pain to force people out. I think as baby boomers die off might help, because the newer generation aren't be able to handle like this. They won't have the equity. It's Sunday and I'm embarking upon a recreational walk, believe it or not. I've got no other purpose. Just basically getting out of the house on a Sunday afternoon. So tomorrow my friend may be landing around this time, if he's on schedule. He's got to do there's 2 flights involved coming up from Melbourne, which is a bit strange. I thought he'd have a direct flight, but he doesn't. He has to go to Sydney, so that could cause complications. However, if he's on time, he'd be getting back around this time of the day, and he'd probably getting down to my place at about 5:30, I would imagine. I'm sort of intrigued to see what's happening with the bike track. So, and I haven't been down to the beach, I'd say, probably in a month's time. I had over a week when I was feeling crook because this latest cold, so that wasn't possible. But prior to that, I think it was a few weeks before I'd actually ventured down here. The closest I come is when I go to happy hour down Kewarra Street with my neighbours. And 2 days ago I met up with them. Perfect timing for that particular journey. They've given up bringing their dog along because he has a rather erratic pattern when they're trying to walk him. He seems to go in every single direction that you're not expecting, and it does test the ability of the dog walker to account for a chaos occurring in front of them, because yeah, it just switches one side to the other continually, and but of course in a random pattern, so you've got no idea where he's going to go next. So it's hard work. But so unfortunately for Charlie, he's not allowed to come to the pub that often. He freaks out with the number of people apparently, and now Steve's worried that he won't be able to handle the new dog. I think they're going to get it tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly, but Steve was a bit worried whether Charlie would accept the new animal. So I didn't have any issues like that with my animals. We first got a basset hound, and after that we got the cats. And bassets are pretty good with cats. They don't, being a hound, they're not going to make rapid movements and things. They're sort of, you know, big loping dogs, and so the cats got on pretty well. The tabby didn't like the basset as much as the Siamese. The Siamese, I don't know if they actually liked each other that much, but they certainly didn't have any animosity, but the tabby was a little pissed off with being with a dog, but they all slept together because it was survival in Melbourne winter. They didn't have kind owners like my neighbours. They slept outside, so of course they needed to get to each other for body warmth, and they survived okay with that. I mean, they've got plenty of hair, but I guess it was a bit nippy at times. Yeah, although I don't think, I think Steve said it depends on the nature of the dog, because they've got a short-haired dog that doesn't have shed any hair, so it's not really an issue to have it indoors. But personally I don't know if I could handle having a dog in my bedroom, especially when they chuck at 3 AM in the early morning. I would not be impressed. But I'm a grumpy old bastard, I guess. He's a lot more tolerant. Oh, there's Alex with his place. They were telling me that Alex has actually switched agencies to Cairns real estate. I mean, Cairns Beaches real estate is what I'm trying to say. There's a new board there. It's still a small board, but they're having a bit of difficulty selling the place by the looks of things. Although I think more upmarket properties can take a while. And with interest rates going up and everything, you'd think that's a segment of the market that would have been hit particularly hard. Anyway, I'm going to go all the way along the bike path. It runs along the beach. I might go down the beach, I don't know, we'll see how I feel. But I wanted to see what progress they're making on the bike path. Apparently it's quite reasonable, because last time I was here there'd been no work at all had been done on it, so it's been quite spectacular in the last month or two. That's something we had to put up with at the beach house on Friday. There were a couple of guys on fairly noisy motorbikes cruising up and down. So only happened about twice, but really noisy. You'd think it'd be illegal, but there's no cops up here, so you very rarely see them anyway. I've seen some around Smithfield, but that's about it. So it's pretty rare. Pretty much of a breeze here today. Usually it's a bit of a wind tunnel, but not today. So I might save myself the hassle of having to put my shoes back on with all the sand. I might just walk down the bike path today, wimp out. Looks relatively busy, but it is a Sunday. Definitely quieter during the weekdays. Oh, it will be nice to be able to ride a bike all the way along here. It's quite a wide track, and apparently same dimensions for the extension as here. You can see it's just quite a generous width for the bike track. So that would be quite nice. And once I got across to Clifton Beach, then the roads are fine anyway. They're quite quiet. If you're in the suburban roads, it's not an issue. The actual bike path's quite windy, so I think practically I'd probably stay on the roads. But the main thing is to get across Deep Creek. That is the major barrier, and once they build that bridge, that barrier will be forded, which will be great. And I predict it will be a very popular route. So we'll see. My friend's here for about 10 days, so I don't think he's going to be able to see it open. It's going to be a few months, unfortunately. I think they'll try to get finished before summer, though. Logically, that would be a smart move. Apparently the foundation work's been done, so that's a good sign. Oh. Oh, it's nice to hear the the sea anyway. Would be magic if you had a little shack here. You just rent a place out to sleep overnight with the waves, just like I did in Malaysia and the Kewarra Island. That was pretty amazing. Very unique experience. And it was a nice little community there too. It wasn't just the physical situation with the huts. The people staying there were very friendly, probably all parts of Europe generally. And yeah, it was good fun, really good fun. The only dampener again is I've got a cold. Well, there's Double Island in the background. There's a few stories about that. A Hong Kong developer owns it, and the Queensland government's trying to get hold of it again. I think they said he's broken the lease because it's dilapidated the actual resort there, and it hasn't been operating for years, and they're trying to get it back into government hands. And I'm hoping that eventually the public will be able to go to the island rather than it being an exclusive resort, because it just doesn't seem to work. It just means that no one gets to use it. I don't understand why people buy places like that and allow them to go to rack and ruin. You'd think there's potential money-making ability having a place like that. At one stage, apparently, they had A-list Hollywood celebs going there, and but since then, no, they just let it go to rack and ruin. Now here, hopefully, we're going to have a cafe and some other development happening. It's quite a large block, and we desperately need something because the shack over there, the beach shack, is out of commission for another 18 months or so. Now here's the extension to the bike track that I've been waiting for, and we have some action here, which is fantastic. Okay. It's good to see construction site, that's what I want to see. Yep, there it is. So, looking good. Now, I'm not sure how they're going with the bridge, but Steve assures me they've done the foundation work. This is where I thought it would probably start, and so that's going to cut right through this particular resort, which they're totally going to refurbish in the next 12 to 18 months. And the thing is, are they going to just leave the bike path flat like this, or are they going to put like a walk bridge, like an arched walk bridge over it, so people from the resort can go directly to the beach? I mean, ideally that would be probably the best solution. I don't think it'd cost that much. A wooden bridge, a small walking wooden bridge, I don't think it'd be that hard to construct. But again, that may not be in the plans. They may just leave it as a bike path, and the people staying at the resort have to basically contend with the bike traffic. It depends how much it is. I mean, as I say, I envisage it's going to be fairly popular, so I think we might see quite a bit of traffic down there. But as you can see, it actually is happening. The construction has started, so that's really good to see. Oh, I can smell barbecue meat. Someone's barbecuing today. Yeah, there's a group over there. Smells really good. I was hoping Steve might be doing some barbecuing in the next week or so, but he's going to he's not going to be able to go. It's actually we held it at a mutual friend's place, and her dog is just going under the knife, so that's going to complicate things. So chances are we'll have to wait a few more weeks before that'll be an option. I mean, apparently the cost of sending a pet to surgery is getting to the similar levels as it costs for humans, which is quite extraordinary in my opinion, but apparently that's the way things have gone. So the cost of purchasing and looking after a pet is really out there. Now, So they've cleared that, but there's no signage, unfortunately. You think there'd be a sign saying what the development is. They've finally done something down the other end, where they've got apartments being built in the other end of Kewarra Street, just where the roundabout is, right down the other end. But no information, which is a bit sad, because I was hoping they might want to promote the fact they've got a commercial. Oh God, bloody hell, Dog City. You'd think they wouldn't be barking as much on the weekend. You'd think the owners would be around, but no. Yeah, but then I thought they might sort of announce what's going on as a commercial property, as a bit of pre-publicity, but maybe they haven't consolidated their plans yet, so there's really nothing they can tell us. Oh, speaking of mysteries, what happened in Russia last 24 hours? When I woke up today, I couldn't believe it that Prigozhin did, the rebel Wagner Group leader has actually decided to do a deal with Putin, and he has pulled his troops back from the brink of invading Moscow, and he's now being exiled in Belarus as part of the deal. It's the whole thing's very bizarre, because from what I could gather is Prigozhin had a fairly effective fighting force. Most of the Russian troops were tied up in Ukraine. If ever there was a time to carry out a coup, that was perfect timing, because they're just thin on the ground. There's just no one protecting the Russian border. There's no major military troops around Moscow itself. Just, I don't know why that happened. I mean, he was a power-hungry bastard just as much as Putin. That's what they had in common. No wonder they were friends at one stage. But it's just boggles the mind why he actually sent his troops back and agreed to this deal. Maybe there's information we don't know about. Maybe they're just totally irrational. I mean, if you really wonder about people in control currently in Russia, they do seem fairly irrational and bloody-minded at times, and I think there's something behind this. Maybe this is all pre-planned. Who knows? Strange. I don't see what the logic of it would be. Why anyone would want to go to all that trouble, get in a fairly decisive position, and then send your troops back home. Apparently, especially considering that anecdotal reports say that the Wagner Group were getting quite a bit of support from locals in Rostov-on-Don, which is a reasonably large city in a very important logistically strategic spot in the south of Russia, around 800 miles from Moscow itself, and he was getting quite a bit of support apparently from locals. So the whole thing's weird. It doesn't make sense. There's something fishy going on here, and I think we're going to have to wait until the fog of war clears, because this is very bizarre. If ever there was a time for a civil war to break out in Russia, it was today. And they went to the brink and pulled back for some unknown reason. It's just, and I haven't seen any reasonable discussion online about it. A lot of the people who were reporting virtually every 4 to 6 hours, YouTubers, they've just gone quiet. I've only got one that I hadn't seen before. There were a couple of guys who actually had a discussion about it, because I'm bewildered by it all, and I would love to hear any theories they had, because personally it seems strange, and It seems illogical, and it seems against the personality of the people involved. I mean, it looks as though Putin's pulled a rabbit out of his hat, although I think it'll only be a temporary stay of execution for him. I think he's been mortally wounded by all of this. I don't think Russians have that much faith in him. They like strong men, and he's been shown to have a weak side, and I think that could be fatal for him. And yeah, I just don't. The Russian psyche, it's a strange thing. I don't understand it, but they just love strong leaders, and he has not been as decisive as he was in the past. He certainly, his information, he says intel is terrible. The information he's fed is garbage. So yeah, I can't imagine that he would be consolidating support in Russia. I think he'd be losing it. But that's just my opinion anyway. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever, and either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great.